Hi, Shivangi. Welcome to our podcast, Decoding Destiny. When you were in school, you had decided to follow your elder brother's footsteps and become an engineer, but you actually ended up making a very successful career in mass communication. Please take us through your journey. How exactly did this happen? What made you want to be an engineer at the first place, and how did you transition to mass communication?
Hi, Khushbu. Nice meeting you, and thank you for having me for your podcast. And so I was born in a small town, which is obviously now the capital of Jharkhand. I was born in Ranchi, and mostly brought up in Kanpur. So I was in Ranchi for about 7, 8 years, and then mostly in Kanpur, where I finished my standard 12th. And growing up, it was always like you follow footsteps if you don't have the right kind of guidance, or you just so my brother studied to become an engineer, so it was like all set because I knew what exams to take, what entrance exams to give. And plus also adding to that was that I was good in academics, so I did very well in mathematics, and I really liked mathematics as well. So maths and chemistry were my top favorites, and I went for those olympiads and got gold medals and silver medals. But then there was always this part in me which loved to write, so I started writing from a very young age of when I was 5 years old. So
Wow.
without encouragement, I would just keep writing like prose and poems, and was obviously very proud of whatever I wrote. And then as I progressed in school, I saw that that was becoming a big flame in my heart that I really liked. And so there were these instances where I would write for special occasions in school. So I would be the writer for a particular program or particular event. So having done that, there was a bit of me that always wanted to do something in writing. And I plus I was always a big I was an avid reader. So that and then literature was part of my life. So everything, there was this bit of me which always said that probably I should study something to do with English, and that was my passion. And the world of Pride and Prejudice and Shakespeare and all was like very enchanting for me while doing statistics and while doing your organic chemistry. But then what happened was that around so I did good in class 10th, and as it would be that if you get good marks, then you would branch out to science. So I took up science, and then I was preparing to start giving my engineering exams when I finished 12. So I had actually taken IIT and the UP in the entrance, whatever that joint entrance was called, and then West Bengal joint entrance, and I cleared it also. But there was this person who I really hold high up in my regard is to whom I used to go for tuitions for science. He he was the one who made me see it very clearly and made my parents also see it clearly. And I'm one of those lucky people who had that kind of guidance and mentorship, where he said that she is a good student, she does well in whatever she studies, but I think she should do something with writing, because we should not let that just go. Because if she tries to pursue that, I think that will open up lots of horizons. And probably sitting here in Kanpur, you don't know, he told my parents that you guys don't know what all you can do by studying English and later on mass communication. So he encouraged saying that for step one, I will suggest that you go to a bigger bigger city for more exposure. So from Kanpur, it was easy to go to Delhi, but then I did not have any relatives or anybody in Delhi. So, and being a Bengali and having lots of relatives in Calcutta, so Calcutta was my best option. And there are like amazing colleges in Calcutta, universities and colleges in Calcutta. So was packed up for Calcutta, and I'm very uh, uh, grateful that I took that step and I listened to the tutor, as in, and now he's almost family for us. So I went and applied to various colleges in Calcutta, in St Xavier's College, Loreto, Presidency, all the big names in under Calcutta University. I was simultaneously giving engineering exams there as well. But
Oh,
oh yeah, yeah. So when I went there, because it has to be done, so I was meant to write my West Bengal joint entrance examination, and I did that. And plus, I was like, while I'm here, why don't I fill up my other college entrance exams also? So I remember for Loreto College, where I studied, I filled the form very late. So somehow I just filled it, and then it clicked. And they were like, okay, fine. They had to give an exam also there. For most of the places in Calcutta University, you had to write an exam as well, apart from your standard 12th mark sheet. So I wrote the exam in Xavier's, in Presidency, in Loreto. And because of time constraints, whichever results came out first, and I went into there. So that was Loreto College. I got through Loreto College and I studied English honors over there. And once I got through and I started studying, like my first week in college studying English literature, I felt so fortunate, and I was like so happy that probably, as they say, that probably this is happiness. And I was like, okay, I think I finally made the right decision of studying what I had to. And then there was no stopping. And I think because the whole exposure level increased when I went to Calcutta, because of the kinds of friends I had, because of other factors like the elements which add up to your experience and exposure also happen. That led me to understand that probably the next step after this has to be mass communication. And that was an organic move towards mass communication, and not like all of us. And so after finishing English literature, my English 3 years graduation over there, I started appearing for various mass communication exams in different cities. So Bombay was one of them. So I came for XIC, Xavier Institute of Communications. And then I finally landed up doing journalism and mass communication in XIC. So in a nutshell, if you ask me to put it, I would say that various factors add into what you finally pursue. Is that while you are doing that, you should also have this, you should read. I think lots of us in this age and era, we forget that what reading can do to you, fiction, non-fiction. uh, then always I had an interest in general knowledge. So back in our days, we used to read newspapers. So, and when I was in my first year of college in Loreto, I did an internship. That was again like a push from my mother, and I was very fortunate to have that kind of an encouragement. So I did my internship with Financial Express in Calcutta, and there again, during that 2 months of internship, almost 3 weeks, what I was expected to do was get into office and read at least 11 newspapers in the day, and then report what is all there in the highlights of the newspaper. So that's how it all started, and the spark to do something in communication, to do something in journalism, is what I think the seed was sowed then. And yeah, and then it ended up with XIC, and where I went to do my post graduation.
amazing. So, if I am to summarize your story, I think there were two major factors or catalysts that played a role in you choosing your career. One was from a very young age, you started writing. And at that time, it felt like a hobby, right? Just writing poems for yourself. Eventually, people around you in your social setting took notice of it. And you got opportunities in school where you were writing. Again, that was perceived as a hobby. And the second most important factor was the tuition teacher who identified that particular skill as more than a hobby. And he's like, hey, you are brilliant at science and you've cracked all these entrance exams for engineering. But because of this skill of yours being so strong, you should, take this little more seriously. And I think your parents were supportive enough to not just shoo that idea. Otherwise,
Yeah.
a lot of times parents are just like, okay, don't listen to the tuition teacher so much. You're going to do engineering, and right, and that's the end of story. And then the complete career path of that kid looks very different. So I think these were the major factors that led you to where you are today and make a career in mass communication. So
Yeah.
a lot of times parents especially are very uncomfortable to let their kids explore mass communication as a career. I must have interacted with about 600 plus kids so far, and in a batch of 100, at least there are 10 students who are interested in writing, and they've just heard the name mass communication, right? But they don't know what kind of career, what are the names of these career options, or what do they exactly do. So because the kid does not know, the kid just has information, hey, I like writing, and my parents are not, I'm not able to convince them, and the parents are like, writing mein kya hota hai, we don't know. So
Hmm.
I want to take this moment to educate the parents and the students about the options. So if you could help us tell the names of the career options for students that want to get into mass communication or are interested in writing, and what exactly is the kind of work they do, that would be great.
Yeah, no, that's a very valid question. And also, to be very honest, when I started treading this path, I also thought that mass communication was only journalism. So
Hmm.
when I was doing my English honors in Loreto, at that time I thought that okay, probably this field of journalism interests me, and I should do mass communication, which was obviously the option that you should go for. But then I realized that what if tomorrow I do not like to continue with journalism, but something to do in that space? What do I do? So then, mass communication is the bigger umbrella under which there are like lots of other things that come into play. And that I understood when I went into a communication school, which was Xavier Institute of Communications. There we were taught about business communication, where every organization, like given it a small time organization or a large company or a government organization or a not profit organization, every organization needs writing, needs communication with their various stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, it means all the people associated with an organization. Like, say it if it is a small NGO. It's a very basic NGO in a tier 2, tier 3 city, and doing good for underprivileged children or doing good for women. So they also need some kind of communication, right? They need to communicate to get the funding. They need to maybe write their annual report. Maybe they want to put out their stories out in the media, in onto social media. All this is content which is being done by a communication specialist. So that's where communication comes into play. So it is not only like we have this idea that it's going to be only journalism, but journalism, yes, yes. But within journalism also I'll come into that later. Under journalism also there are lots of other options, but under communication, so that is one bit where it is business communication. And if you are interested in photography, and you think that communication is your calling, there is photojournalism for you, where you assist the journalist with your kind, or we create stories with photos. So there is photojournalism. Then there is financial journalism, which is obviously for papers like Economic Times or CNBC and all the pink papers, as we call it. And then there are various other fun things like public relations, which comes under communication. Advertising comes under communication. Anything to do with communicating with a set of audience, where advertising, you're communicating with a set of audience, which we are the consumers, we are the audience, and somebody is writing that, right? Like all the ads which you see, someone is writing it, the copywriter is writing it. Then public relations, the relationship which is being built between a brand, say any brand, McDonald's, and the consumer, somebody is bridging that gap. And then there are other celebrities who are communicating with their audience and fans and everybody. So that is again being done by public relations. So these are the other little options which are there. Then there are other things like hardcore corporate communications, which I have branched out into. So hardcore business corporate communication is, and I have worked in large in in large MNCs. So MNC is a multinational company. So and I have worked in France-based MNC, in a UK-based MNC. I'm in a Kiwi company, which is a New Zealand company. Sorry, and so in those organizations where you have offices across the world, like the French company that I used to work for, that had about 92 offices across the world. So
Wow.
yeah, and there are more than 2 lakh employees. So you need internal communications very strong, right, to connect all the employees. So that is again internal communication. So it would be like a big job to do that right kind of communication from the HR, from the businesses, from the leadership, that everyone is knitted together in the same business goals. So that is again one kind of internal communication. Then there is a branch which is called external communication within the organization, where this team would be doing all kinds of public relations for the company, all media coverage for the company, events for the company. So then that comes under external communications. Then there are other things like events. Under events, there would be any uh, service that the company is launching, or any kind of fundraising that they are doing for as part of the social responsibility, corporate social responsibility. So that is again another kind of communication. So within corporates, these are the essentials that they have. And no corporate can run without a communications team. So it has to have a solid communications team in large organizations. And in small organizations also, you need somebody to write your presentations, right? Like where the sales team goes out and does some kind of presentation to the whatever the people. So there you need somebody to make those presentations with the right kind of content. So content is, as we say, is in a very cliche term, content is king. So you need content across the table, across industries, across companies. So these are the kind of to answer your question. So yeah, so communication, I think, cuts across industries and across verticals, where everyone needs uh, to communicate to their audience and stakeholders.
Right. Shivangi, that was a very, very insightful answer. You named about 8 to 10 career options within mass communication, and I'm sure that was very, very educational. Thank you very much for the answer. Another mindset that I've noticed, especially in a tier two city in India, is parents feel that there is how much demand is there for these kind of jobs, right? Although you answer in the previous answer, you covered about how every single company, be it a very small company or a large MNC, needs communications. And slowly but gradually, everyone will have an online presence. So the need for a communication specialist is only going to grow in the next 10 years. So, but I still want you to cater to this question of financial stability as well as demand for the job, right? I'll just throw some light on financial stability. If you know that your kid is going to pursue engineering, let's say computer science engineering, you know for a fact that the starting income is going to be anywhere between 3 lakh to 30 lakh, right? Depending on the college you go in, depending on the kind of skills you have, and how what you do in those 4 years. So there is at least some kind of financial stability in a parent's mind that, okay, there's going to be food at the end of the day on the table. So in terms of communication or mass communication careers, how does this financial stability look like? Right? What is the range of income that one can expect?
Okay. So yeah, so if I have to go back to when I started, so that was one of the things, because I was living in Bombay and I was by myself, and I had come from Calcutta to Bombay to study in Xavier's. So and then I had actually taken a student loan to study at Xavier Institute of Communications. So so I had to repay that loan, and plus I had to survive in an extremely expensive city like Mumbai. And so the struggle was real. And
Super real.
and that's how, like, I can understand the inhibitions which parents have, thinking that they might not earn enough to support themselves. Then what about uh, when they
Get
grow
married, have
older,
a family.
marry,
Yeah.
have family, and irrespective of the gender, right? Here we're not even
Yeah.
looking at the genders here. So so when I started, I was fortunate enough to be campus recruited from Xavier's, and I had kind of by the end of the course realized that I wanted to get into the area of corporate communication and business communication. And so then by then I when I was campus recruited, that time I started, to be very honest, I started under about, I think it was about 8 lakhs per annum when I started. And I don't know how it is now. Maybe it is much more now, way more.
Yeah, 8 lakh per annum when you started is amazing. So, were
Yes,
you one of the highest paid students in the campus, or was this like a average
I
package?
think it was average. It was not one of the highest, but because, but then again, there were things like if I was I had two options. So if I was by one of the news wires, if I would have joined them. I think probably it was little lower than 8 lakhs, and that was way back in 2006, 7, and now I'm sure with the inflation and the it would be higher, and
Yeah.
but after that, like I realized that as you progress and my avenues and my exposure increased, I it keeps increasing. So that whole holding yourself back and inhibitions of, I don't know, probably I'll not be earning as much as a software engineer, or I might not be earning as much as a CA. I think it goes
Yeah.
out of the window after some time, because you realize that if you are at the right place, pursuing the right kind of job that you are good at, I think, and you do justice to the job that has been offered to you, there is no holding back and there is no stopping. And then it is just like a, it just
Upward
goes up.
journey from there.
It's an upward
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
It just goes up. And
Amazing.
yep, go for it.
I think the takeaway that I'm taking from this answer is if you are looking at financial stability in terms of mass communication as a career, you have to do two things. One, you have to ensure that you write enough and you've written enough. You have something in your portfolio during your campus recruitment. And second, you have to ensure that you go in one of the best colleges where right out of campus you can get great jobs, right? As opposed to maybe a tier three or a tier four college. So preparing for a good college in mass communication will ensure that financial stability will never be an issue, even if you compare it with careers that we've heard of a lot, like you mentioned CA architect or software engineer. You can be at par with them, and it's not a very rare instance. Like you said, 8 lakh was like an average figure. You weren't one of the extremely highest paid folks, right? So it means that you can have a great career even if you're above average student. So thank you for being so honest and sharing the numbers. This will definitely, especially this will provide some kind of relief to the parents more than the students,
Yeah.
right?
Well, just
Um,
Khushbu, I would just want to add something to what you said, is that yes, it would be best if you get into one of the best colleges for mass communication, or the best colleges for advertising, or one of those things. But what if you don't get into the best? But still, if you
hmm,
are in a tier two city or a tier three city which has a
hmm,
communication college, this is, I think, for anybody at the uh, grassroots level I'm talking about. If they
yeah,
have a school where they can study little basic about communication and has that tenacity to keep going, and if they crack that college in their own town, and then I think once they get into it, and then from there they can branch out to bigger schools or bigger opportunities after that. It is about
right,
knowing that you should be getting into this path and then sticking with it. And plus, obviously, if you get into the best colleges like XIC, or maybe Micah in Ahmedabad, or the Delhi one, IIFC or something it is called. So one of those best colleges, if you get through, obviously you'll have a better return after your course, which is for sure. And because most of them have campus recruitments, that when I was in one of the French companies, and my communication job took me to places like France. I went for my one of the projects, and I visited France and Netherlands. Then I went to the UK, and so then you just have to keep faith in what you do, and you have to, and also be the best in what you do. You have to be good. There is no alternative for hard work. So it's just that.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for touching very important subject that it's okay if in your bachelor's you haven't landed a great college, even if it is one of the least good colleges. get into the college and prepare well for your masters, maybe do your masters from one of the best colleges, and then your financial stability, will be set in a way.
Yeah.
So a very important lesson that you have given here. Shivangi, on a lighter note, sometimes students just fail to convince their parents that they want to pursue a career in mass communication, and that the parents should let the child be. So I want to know, how did you convince your parents to let you pursue a career in mass communication, as opposed to you were a child who was doing great in science, had very good entrance exam results. So, not taking admission in an engineering college versus actually, pursuing mass communication or English honors. How did you convince them? I'm sure the students can take some tips from this.
And I was fortunate to have a father who was very well informed about things. And if he was not informed, he would do his research and try to be informed. So I was very fortunate about that. So once this was proposed to him that I can probably from English literature then branch out to mass communication, he did his. I remember we obviously that time back then we did not have computers at home, so in
Hmm.
office he would take out printouts and bring home and give it to me to read, just like these are the options that you can do. And my mother had always been a force of nature. She was like, you like this, you go for it, and I will try to make everything possible for you to move out of Kanpur if that is what you have to do. So I had very
Wow.
supportive parents who did not hold me back. Convincing parents, I think I would suggest that now we have the whole world wide web at our disposal, social media at our disposal, just to read, just to look up what these things are, to and to understand that what future can hold if you do mass communication. It's there is no stopping once you get into this whole field. There are so many options that there is no looking back.
Absolutely. I also want to take a moment here to appreciate the openness and the educated mindset of your parents. You actually didn't have to struggle too much, right? Once that seed of mass communication was planted in their head, they themselves did that research and maybe even tried to convince you कि अच्छा तुम ये कर सकते हो आगे,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So amazing set of parents. And this is like, we are talking about this mindset back in 2005 or 2006, and that too in Kanpur, not
Hmm.
like the most, not a metro city or a
Yeah.
situation like that. So it's amazing. Kudos to your parents. Always happy to meet individual like you. I think behind every individual that has taken a different career path, or a life path, are very supportive parents or family members who did not hold them back, right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
mhm,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Any final words of wisdom for our school students and parents or audience watching the show?
Just a couple of other things that I would want to add is that while you are studying, maybe during school and during college, also I realized is the other extracurricular activities, they open up a wide range of possibilities, probably which you don't think about. So when I was in college, I did a lot of theater. I did a lot of. I went for debate competitions, and I was the debating society president 1 year, and vice president, and then president. And so those other things also kind of then you start moving around in a circuit where people are talking about various things and various possibilities and various opportunities which lie beyond our perception. And so it is very important for school kids, as you would say, school kids or college kids, to do other things apart from only studying, and to understand
Right.
their um, uh, where their interests lie, and through those interests and keeping that kind of company, friends are important. Keeping that kind of good friends will open up lots of opportunities that you probably didn't think that you could explore. Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are very, very wise words. And extracurricular activities are like the most important thing, even more important than your grades, I would say. Because at the
Yes.
end of the day, if you like analyze your life when you're at 30, the grades will not make so much difference, but your extracurricular activities will add to your personality and your thinking.
Yeah.
So couldn't agree more with you.
No,
Right.
absolutely. At some point in time, I feel that, and now living in New Zealand, I have also felt this that at some point in time, you should move out from the comfort cocoon of your home, because there is a big world outside there. So I think that's what my parents took that step to send me to a larger city, from Kanpur to Calcutta, then Calcutta to Bombay, and now I'm in New Zealand, is that get out of the comfort of your house. Get out, because if the more you stay there, you are you don't know what the world can hold for you. And while you do that, while in that journey, have the right kind of friends, because they are going to
Very
uh,
important.
yeah, they are going to add to your personality, they are going to add to your exposure, they are going to help you become the person you become 10, 12, 15 years later. So this is my when I look back at the friendships that I have made, or the paths that I have taken and the paths that I have not taken, is few words that I can share with students right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Those were very, very wise words indeed. Uh, Thank you very much for your time and sharing your experience on our podcast. I hope students and parents benefit from this. Even if one student is able to identify that they want to pursue a career in mass communication, and these are the options, and this is how they can convince their parents, I think we've achieved our target for today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing a very good and a noble job, Kushbu, of trying to help parents and students understand what their child can do. It's a very important job, and you're doing it really well. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shivangi.